Writing is not something that just sort of happens. Writing a book, especially, happens when you can consistently show up for something. And I choose this word consistent on purpose, but I want to make sure that we are not being very dictatorial about the showing up. But showing up is super important. It happens in steps, it happens in parts, it happens in repetition, and it does not happen all at once. Agreed? It happens, gracias. It happens because we keep showing up. So being on this call, not that the call in itself is magic necessarily, but you're showing up. And that's badass. Agreed? It's doing the thing. It's a prerequisite. Book's not going to spill out of you all at once. Even if it does, it's going to need revision. So we keep showing up. Let's do a quick check-in. Where are we? Where are we thriving? Where are we stuck? But too embarrassed to tell anybody except the people on the call. And then we will go from there. Stace, do you want to start?
Sure. First of all, hi.
Hi.
Good to see both of you. Um, I had felt stuck and realized that it wasn't that at all. I was pausing to really integrate and assimilate some of the knowledge that I'm taking in so that I could actually utilize it. And um, what really started that were the moon cycles that allowed me to know, no, you don't just run until you drop. That it doesn't have to be like that. And so I started giving myself a bit more grace with it. And so through the cycle of new moon, uh, I thought, okay, I'm going to implement some self-care, give myself some space. And then when the full moon cycle came about, I still wasn't writing. And it occurred to me that I was still working. I just wasn't writing. And to take that a step further, I was actually writing. I just wasn't putting pen to paper. And so I thought, okay, this can take whatever form you need it to be the best path forward. And so, giving myself the grace to inhale again before I exhale again, um, really allowed me the space to receive some of the information that I was missing. And so just in my pause, um, I've changed the title probably 4 or 5 times. It'll probably change again, but just moments ago, actually, I thought this fits better. This is actually what I'm not trying to say, what I'm trying to have heard.
Yeah. Amazing.
And so I thought, okay, if I'm not me, if I'm my audience, what do I want to see and read that makes me pick this up?
Yeah.
What resonates with me immediately by the title?
That's a
That
huge evolution in your perspective, right?
absolutely. Yeah, like if I see this on the cover, will I want to read the back? And and I would say by and large no before. No, to me, yeah, it resonated, but I'm not my audience. And so I would say that in these past few weeks, while I have not been uh, overly productive as far as actual book chapters and content, I won't tell you that it hasn't been productive because it
Right.
has. And I still think I probably have 20% more at least of my book content to put it onto paper into the
Sure.
pages. Uh, but somehow that still seems like the easy part now.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because this is amazing. This is amazing. That the thing that we think is the hard part, when we've done the other stuff, it's the stuff that we don't know how to measure and we can't track by word count when we're thinking and feeling and determining what's the actual intention and path and meaning and all the stuff underneath. You're making a really strong foundation. So you can just like build a house, no big deal, right? But we so often, because we come at things from this external, tangible word count place, we focus on the things that we can see rather than things that are harder to understand. Even the word productive, again, our brains go to how long is the book? How good is the book? All this external stuff. um, and I still struggle with this. I am sick and I'm working because I have an aversion to rest culturally and now habitually, even when my body's like, hello, right? But resting, however you show up in rest, however, cooking, cleaning, hiking, all of these things, talking with friends, going out for coffee, all of these things can be an active part of your creation process. That, so I keep saying to myself, but also hopefully so that you can start saying it to yourself as well. This is me working on my book. This hike is me working on my book. If I'm thinking through an idea, this is what working on my book looks like, right? Hi, Lanisha. Um, so really expanding our understanding of what it is, what the creation process entails. And this is why in some marketing stuff, I still call it writing. But once people get close, I don't call it writing. It's drafting is a part of this process, but planning is a different part and the editing is another part. And the whole dreaming, inspiration, recharging, no one expects to like fill their car once and then just be able to drive forever. We absolutely understand that you have to keep putting gas in your car, right? But me, I'm going to fill it up once and then I'm just going to go. I have expectations to where I can just go for life. Oh yeah, I did that once, right? 1 week a year, holiday, whatever. Sure, I should just be able to run for another 51 weeks. My car doesn't work like that. But we have built in this, just keep showing up. So I love to hear, I love to hear that discovery and that integration and implementation. I went on a writer's retreat and just retreated. I tried to write and I decided, yeah, no, that's not what I mean, I planned it, but I need something else. So I had to take what I needed. Um, we're just checking in with where we are, what we're up to. Leslie, you're still doing NaNoWriMo, I know, because we're connected and I watch your word count tick up and I love it. How's it going?
I had a big writing weekend, so I'm ahead of the game a little bit. So I'm on track basically. And I'm just, having outlined it ahead of time really helps. Because I don't have to think about what to think about. It
You did
just,
that all before November 1st, right?
well, I did all my chapters, all
Mm-hmm.
the titles. So I have 30, I don't know, 34 chapters.
Okay.
And then kind of I started on the first kind of filling in all the outline for each chapter. And I go ahead about 2 or 3 because I know sometimes I'll go on tangents and won't end up back there again. So, but I spent, so that keeps me moving forward. And that's been a lot easier than my past books where I just had ideas and I had to be like, oh, I don't know what I'm saying, spend a lot of time drifting. But this is a different type of book than I've written before too.
This is
I keep seeing examples of what I'm writing about in a
really,
question form out in the world. So I'm like, this might be good. So
oh, that's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, that's validating. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's good.
Oh, I love it.
And it's also like there's this generalized anxiety living in the United States as far as, is everything just going to be for nothing? But, it's hard. It's just like constantly working, just like keep doing what I'm doing, like
Yeah.
have some hope that we can be human here,
Yeah.
somehow.
And so that I'm going to hinge on that for a second. 2 things. One is the planning of the whole journey is so helpful, like you said. And this is why it should be its own phase. There's the planning of the when am I writing, where am I writing, how am I writing? And then there's the planning, what the hell am I writing? Right? If it's a road trip or like a multi-day hike through the mountains, what food do I need? Where are we camping? How are we getting from here to there? Where's the water sources? Right? When you plan out that whole journey, I mean, I don't know about you all, but I'm never gonna like grab a random backpack and walk into the woods. Never gonna do that. I'm gonna know where I'm going, when I'm going. I'm gonna pack the backpack. I'm gonna wear the shoes for a week before I go. I'm gonna have some security things in place. Writing should be the same way. What's happening in this chapter? How do I get from here to there? What are the fundamentals? What do I need in there? But so many of us, myself included, I sat down to write. It's just like walking into the woods without our backpack and be like, it's just the Pacific Crest Trail. How hard can it be? You know, I'm just gonna keep on walking. And to Stacey's point, like, I'm just gonna run. I'm just gonna run. A woman just ran the Appalachian Trail in like 40 days. Fastest ever done. No thanks, right? Amazing, good for you. But no, not thank you, no. But she probably didn't do it without any preparation, right? That's not how we're doing this. So taking the time and building that structure. So like both Stace and Leslie, you both just said this, like the writing becomes the easy part because you've done all the heavy lifting, all of the thinking. What am I trying to accomplish? How am I going to accomplish it? What do I share here so that the next chapter builds on this or is a logical next step? Amazing. And then when we have this container for the process, we also, you're a container inside a world. So if you get sick, if the world goes to shit, if it rains and all of a sudden there's like 2 inches of water in your office, true story, you can take into account what's going on around you. And if there's chaos around you, then you can pare back what you're doing and how you're sort of showing up for a project. If life is clean and stable, then you can expand and take it on. But I think it's really important to bring it up in this conversation to remember that just because you set a plan and built a container doesn't mean that your container doesn't resonate or vibe off the other things that are going on in your life. Fair? Lanisha has been going through a lot since we met, right? And so what I witness people do is I said I would do this thing and I'm not doing it. I don't care what's going on around me. Like there's typhoons and floods and this and that and chaos, but I didn't make my deadline. Like, no, okay, yeah, so don't. New plan. Right? And so
But
just
just to
remembering
say
that.
that would be me.
I wasn't gonna say it with you. I was just gonna say, like, I know people who do
No,
this,
I'll talk
right?
about it when you're ready, but that would be
I'm
me.
ready. Perfect transition. All right. Let us in behind the curtain.
Oh gosh. For all the years that I have written, I have never in my, well, I won't say never. I will tell you where I am right now. And I had to just realize that over the weekend. I had a colleague turned girlfriend come visit me on her way home this weekend, and we were talking, and she was like, "This is the rested I've ever seen you." Right? Like the most rested. Like you look at
Mm,
peace, you look calm, you don't look stressed, you don't look worried. And I was like, and so where I am, and this normally is a thing for me every year. And she helped me realize that it could be just with the shift in season.
mm-hmm.
Because towards the end of September is when I actually shut down.
Yep.
It's happened more like I've been able to really experience it probably over the last 4 years since 2020, because
Mm-hmm.
when George Floyd was murdered, a lot in my world shifted just because of the work that I do and where I
Yep.
live and how I had to show up. And then
Yep.
my marriage was crumbling at the same time, and like my body literally shut down on me. And then
Yep.
2 years ago, I had a concussion in October that forced me to shut down.
Yep.
And so I'm in that space, right? I want to write, but I don't want to write. And I'm like, my 6 month process might end up being an 8 month process, because this is really the time where I reflect. My birthday's next month. And so this is my time where I
Yeah.
don't do too much outpouring or output, but that I sit and sit with what's on the inside of me.
Yeah.
And I've had to embrace that because I've been trying to force myself to write. It's not working.
Yeah.
And also I don't have a space that I feel comfortable writing in right now. And so I'm trying to figure that out as well.
Yeah.
And it just could be we need to make some modifications in the house, because I just
Sure.
right. So like we're like merging two households and things. And so there's still space that needs to be sorted out. But I
Yeah.
had to give myself grace over the weekend and be like, I'm where, especially like you said, I've experienced a lot of death in our family lately. And um, I'm just like, I am where I am.
Yeah. This is so fundamental because it does the outward perception of getting something done. We're like, I'm not getting anything done. And I always call BS on that. Unless you're like on an absolute alcohol or Netflix bender, probably you're getting more done than you think. If you're thinking or feeling into the process at all, you are doing fundamental parts of the process and saying, this is me working on my book, resting, recovering, healing, getting ready for a journey, creating a space, getting rid of all. I just before this call, I was on another conversation, and a woman was describing having overcome 4 years of 3 consecutive burnouts. And then she's done a lot of energetic work and body work and family constellations and whatever, and did a meditation. And all of a sudden there was this outpouring. I call it all of a sudden. And I sort of strike those words because we say them like the 4 years of work that she had done were nothing. Because all of a sudden there was something external, tangible, measurable. And so if you ever hear yourself say all of a sudden, I just want you to check that all of a sudden, like what were the prerequisites to your all of a sudden? Because all of those things actually are part of the process. They are moving you along. And so recognizing they are the internal things, they are the more feminine things, they are the more feeling things, things that in general we overlook and discredit and minimize. But what if they are fundamental prerequisites for this creation process? Leslie, how long ago was it? Was it 20 years ago that you had this idea for this book?
It was about 1997, 98 that I started it.
Okay.
So that's
So a
more
minute
than
ago.
20 years ago.
Okay.
I was in graduate school
I love
and
it.
started it and then got busy, you know,
Got lifey, right?
you know, and
Um,
still busy in a different way, but my brain's not as busy. So
and that is so interesting because we talk about, I talk about in this process, like planning, you're creating space, right? I need to clear my desk. And I can talk about my desk because I can take a picture of it and send it to you. But what if this is also my desk? And if I had 3 toddlers right now, I kid you not, I would not have a clear desk, right? If I were going through a divorce right now, I would not have a clear desk. And so clearing the space, I mean it physically, but there is work to clear grief. There is work to clear stress. There is work to clear enough space so what comes through comes through. And when we can do that, a lot of the actual writing, drafting, is easy. And Lanisha, you said that you're trying to force it, you're trying to write, and it's not working. And I definitely know this experience. Forgive the analogy, but it always feels like trying to pop a pimple. I'm like, if I just squeeze harder, it'll come out, but it hurts and it doesn't come out, and then like it scars. And I want us to start recognizing all of this process where we're forcing things. Because that effort doesn't yield anything. I mean, even if you're successful at popping the pimple, it's not great. And the writing I do, even when I'm successful at forcing myself, it's not great. It's not the best use of that energy. And so when you have the, I want to be writing, but I can't write, I want you to look at the other 3 ways that you can be showing up for your story. Because you can do one of those at all times. You can probably show up for one of the 4 different things. You can dedicate yourself to rest. You can dedicate yourself to planning. You can dedicate yourself to drafting if it flows. Even if you haven't written anything, you can still dedicate yourself to revision by looking and saying, like, what hasn't worked before? Because you can revise the content, but you can also revise how you show up. Some people really like to write in their car. If writing in your car doesn't work for you, revise that. Try another place. Some people, I wrote one of my books between like 1 and 3 a.m. for a month. It only worked for that one book. I won't repeat it. When, where, how. You can even revise how you rest. Does that make sense? So you can always show up for your book. Always. Any minute of any day. But if your definition of making progress on your book is this big, then you're going to keep bumping into failure. So let's expand the definition. And I want to show up. When you're like, I wanna, that's awesome. Choose something that fits. And so, Stace, I wanna bring something in because you're talking about the moon phases. You can use what's in the sky and help direct your energies, especially when you're learning the different ways to show up. Absolutely. Eventually, I want you to be so literate with these different processes and the sensations and sort of the circumstances. I can move through all 4 phases in a single day. I can rest for 20 minutes when I'm hiking in the mountain behind my house. And then I can plan out the workflow when I'm going to do what, then I can execute and do the thing, create. We're not executing, no killing, creating, create something. And then later on in the day, I can reflect on how did it go, or I can actually read what I created or eat what I made. Like, oh, that needs more paprika.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, I love the analogy that you use because I personally think in similes. And so referencing the lunar cycle was more of a reminder that it's a cycle and it changes. All of those things change. And that's why I love the analogy that you used as filling up your gas tank, because my body and my mind try and play tricks on me when it comes to that.
Yeah.
For example, my body and my mind tell myself, you just filled
Right.
up. And the last time you filled up, you made it this far.
Mhm.
Well, okay, the last time was downhill and this time it's uphill.
Right.
So I'm not going to make it as far. And my body is like, no, I'm not making it that far. And my mind is like, doesn't make any sense. You did last time.
Right.
And to really recognize that I need to listen to my actual needs and not the story of what
Yeah.
could, should, need to be done.
How
It's
does your
really important.
engine run when it is in the last quarter, right? Like I literally wish I had like an empty, because I don't want to see it.
Right.
And Lanisha, we're talking about this too, in terms of like this season, this whole, and this is it. The rhythm can be however big or small. It can be a day, it can be 4 months, right? There's still the digestion and percolation that's happening of like, I am in the preparation of a book space. Doesn't mean I'm going to have 40,000 words done next month. And so it can be as big or as small, and you can jump from one to another. And that's what I want. When we learn a new system, we like to dictate and put like rules, and I'm going to stay on this for 7 days and I'm going to stay in this for 7 days. Yeah, fine, good. But there's days where I wake up and I'm like, oh, it's a planning day. I'll feel all about lists and to-dos, but I'm not going to actually do any of the things on my list today. But I feel successful and productive in making a list. And then there's other days where I'm like, I'm not going to make a list. I'm going to free flow. We're going for it. And then there's absolutely other days where I'm just like, I want to tear things apart. I want to be critical of things. I want to cut sentences. I want to throw away everything in my house. You have those days? Those are great. Those are great revision days. Okay. When you are crabby and critical and not everything is wonderful and perfect, that energy is fantastic for revision if you want to show up. And so, sort of like, the read the room expression, read yourself. What kind of day, what kind of hour is it? Yeah, I want to show up for my book today. Good, I'm going to show up for an hour. Great. I don't know if I'm going to write or rest, but I'm going to show up for my book. Okay. What I've been trying to do more often, and I think it's helping. Leslie's been consistent here every week. So I'm going to let you vote primarily. Taking 25 minutes of this hour to actually dream, draft, plan. Is that helpful to have that I'll hold the container and then you show up as you need to? Is that helpful?
It's working good. I mean, well for me, but I don't know. Maybe you need the time to go take care of yourself and let us self-structure any downtime.
You're amazing. What do we each need? Claim what you need, and if I can provide it, I will. We have 28 minutes on the clock. Sometimes just showing up and just checking in with the process can be enough.
I have a question.
Cuéntame.
In the structural phase where I'm moving my mind map
Mhm.
into my summary, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
There are chapters that I don't know where they would flow best.
Mhm.
And so right now, what I've been doing is sticking them somewhere. And then when I do a read through, if it doesn't seem to flow as well, I move it around. I change
Okay.
chapter numbers. And I'm wondering if there's a better strategy for flow.
So when I'm doing this, I always just look at the outline because everything's this big, right? And it's really easy to move something small. And so I would look at the outline and see, move them in the outline space, make a decision of where it belongs, put it there, and then actually revise the words in the chapter and the chapter before to create the flow. It's not going to automatically flow until you, like, if it flows in the outline, this concept makes sense next to this concept or this idea, cool. Then you may need to actually highlight that connection, highlight why this makes sense next to this. Because in writing, I can make anything make sense from one thing to another. I can go from talking to feet to chili, right? Like, I just have to say why this links with this.
And I think that that's the part that I'm missing,
Okay.
because I'm very good at looking at my mind map, and I'll
Mhm.
take this and think it corresponds to this, so I'll move it over there. I'll take
Okay.
this and think it corresponds to that and move it over there. And then I do the same thing with the core outline.
Yeah.
So I'll put it in the core outline. If it doesn't look right, then I move it, then I move it. What I don't do is it, well, and then I put it in the draft and I
Mhm.
move it again.
Right.
And what I don't do is fashion the words to move it instead
Okay.
of physically moving it.
Right. Okay. So there's so many amazing productive feeling procrastinations. We're like, look, I'm working, but I'm not making progress. So what I challenge you to try, and come back next week and let us know. Make the decision at the high level, because you can make anything match anything. If I were drawing this for myself, I'd be like, post it, next post it. If you need the arrow of like the relationship between this and this, name that relationship. Name why we're moving from one thing to another, because you are the boss. You are creating a universe for your reader, and you can go any way you want, but you do need to bring your reader along for the ride, right? It can even be like, hey, end of chapter. You know, where that feeling where you're at the top of the roller coaster and you're about to like have the ground drop out from you? That's where we're going next. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm ready to have the ground drop out from me, right? Like, then move it, commit to it, and look at the text that's actually there. At the end of every chapter, there's some kind of wrap up or transition or something, right? In fiction, I love this. And you can see it on Netflix too. Like, an episode will have something amazing happen sort of in the middle. And then sort of nothing happens. And then just before the episode ends, something else is like, ooh. And you know why they do that? It's so that you watch the next episode. And we do this in writing, so you turn the page. Because if a chapter just ends of like, there you go. No, I need you to tell the reader what's on the next page without telling the reader. Tell them there's something cool over there so that they want to show up and so that they're motivated to put things together. It's not an easy thing that I'm telling you to do, but I want you to try it with one chapter. And it involves the chapter before, it involves the beginning of the chapter. You can move it and rewrite the chapter as many spaces in your, you can do this 200 times, but don't. Make the choice, put it somewhere, and then make it fit. And so it's going
That
to be
is so much more liberating. I can't tell you. Like something in my mind just took a deep sigh of relief
great.
because like the responsibility of getting the core outline correct is uh, is much more daunting than just saying, it's close. Now write it so it's closer.
Yeah.
And somehow to not be as perfect with the placement and then adapt the chapter to the flow instead of the core outline to the flow.
No, well, and that assumes also that the chapter that you wrote as is perfect and can't be tweaked, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we have
And
dinner for breakfast, and I just tell my daughter we're having dinner for breakfast and breakfast for dinner. Okay, it usually happens this way, but now it's happening this way. We can make the rules, right?
right. And you and I have had this conversation before about the analytics of it being stringent, and that trips me up in my process because I hold on to the form
I know you
and
do. Yeah,
and and that doesn't serve my reader.
it's not serving you much either from the
Well, I
sound
mean,
of it,
it's
right?
synonymous,
Yeah.
right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
ultimately, whatever serves my reader serves me, but not necessarily the other way around.
Right. So why don't you try it with one chapter this week? Start high level, see where it goes. And like, yeah, this is a reasonable place to talk about this, right? Sorry, my dog is barking like she cares. One of the things that I actually challenge a lot of writers to do is it doesn't need to be chronological. People tell a story, they write a memoir like the way they lived it. Please don't do that. I have to live my life chronologically. Oh my God. What if we started at the end and then you showed me how to get there? Right. And like we actually talked about this in your outline too. I'm not in for the ride until you tell me what's at the end. And I'm willing to climb a mountain if there's magic over there. But you gotta show me that. And we don't live that's the story with that anticipation. We just had to like slog through and find it. But the book can be better. And so we can put things in any order we want. And you can bounce from one time to a different place and a different time. All you have to do is tell us where we are. And so sometimes closing the gap can be a lot easier than we think. Lanisha, do you have something that you need or came for or want in particular?
No, this is good for me. Just
Great.
showing up every week and just being in the space. I'm in my pajamas still today.
Yes!
It
Yes!
is cold outside, so I have on
Pajama
flannel
press.
pajamas.
Oh my God, I love it. Plaid
This is
flannel
like,
too.
I'm like, this is the one
Show
meeting
it
I know I can
up.
show up anywhere. I was like, this is a meeting for pajamas today.
Yes, pajama meeting.
And what I've been doing my in my mind planning, since I'm not writing right now, really, is asking God to remind me of my journey, right? What were the fundamental lessons that I've learned that help me deal day to day?
Awesome.
And so I've been doing a lot of reflection, this is my time of year too as well.
You
Like
are right on
the 2
schedule.
months. Yeah, because my birthday's next month and my brother's birthday is in October, and we're 2 months apart. And so his birthday is normally my signal that I've got 2 months to dig deep.
Right. Love that.
And
Yeah.
so reminding myself, because I am in a lull right now, and it's okay for me to be in that lull. Just like even in my career, the work that I've done, I'm in this process of how do I recreate myself moving forward. Right. And so allowing myself to think everything I've done to this point, which only the Lord knew that this would be my journey, and how has all of that shaped me to who I am still becoming.
Yeah. Do you have like a box or a drawer or a folder, digitally or physically, where you can like drop stuff as it comes to you? That's the only, that way that it doesn't just come to you and then leave again.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
that-
I'm keeping my book close.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And just that's there's always a little bit of structure in the looseness, so that all the discoveries can stick with you. You don't have to hang on to them and keep them in your brain because you sketch them out. And then I found, okay, I'm actually gonna blush about this. This is adorably embarrassing. I found a Ziploc bag with index cards in it that I drafted when my daughter was 1.5 years for a book. It actually had 3 books in there. Some of it was color coded, but it was as close as I had gotten to the idea of a couple books. And that was it. And it was adorable. Never wrote those books, but that was me hanging on to ideas and organizing things. If I'd had the structure, I could have taken it further than the Ziploc bag, but adorable. Okay. And so even actually, I find knowing that there's a container lets you relax into the phase even more, because you're not trying to do 4 things at once, right? Look at me relaxing. Nope. And actually fully embrace. You don't have to change out of your pajamas for 6 weeks, right?
Well, I mean, I do.
Okay, well, that's
It would
on you.
stink after a while.
Yes, okay. Not the
Yeah,
same set of
yeah.
pajamas, perhaps.
But I will tell you, one of the things that I did do over the weekend was I started writing down, like, because I feel like I've been writing a book for over 20 years now, right? I've named it several things, I've put it out there in different ways. And one of the things I did this weekend was write out how I was feeling before. Right. So all the negative emotions that used to drive me, I literally just started making a list of, self-sabotage, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, anxiety, depression, like all the things that I know that I had to struggle with to get to where I am. And the next phase is to elaborate on those, because I think that's going to be a good starting place for me, right? So it could be the beginning of my outline, if you will.
Could absolutely. Yeah.
And then the flip side of that, of course, is what replaced those feelings.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot more progress than you gave yourself credit for at the beginning of the call. There's a lot of work happening in your brain. And I will take you all up on Leslie's suggestion unless anybody has anything else. Leslie?
I just have one thing. Sorry, my puppy
Yeah,
is
do it. Do it.
interested in the
Mine was
meeting. He's like, I want to see
absolutely
who's talking.
right. Yeah, Rosie was
Sorry.
very interested in it as well.
Yeah. Back to what Stacy was saying about not knowing where to put something. I have a couple chapters that I'm sorry that I'm writing that I'm really excited to write. Like I think they're going to be at the end. They're hilarious and things that happened as a result of all the job hunting and all the work and everything. And to treat myself, I'll sometimes write a paragraph or two from those chapters. I'll put it in a different color, like
The
purple,
dessert chapters.
so that like if I'm just not like, oh, let's write about, underqualification, I'm like, no, let's write about the time when this happened. So I kind of do that as a little treat, but then I just put it in a different color. So it's like, okay, I know it's there. It's
So you're writing this way, and then there's like, I know this belongs somewhere else, but I'm going to write it right now. Okay.
Mhm.
Amazing.
Mhm. And I tend to do that in all my writing because there's pieces that I'm just like, I can't wait to
Yeah.
get to. And it's like, I'll pull them back in with other chapters later, and I
Nice.
kind of know where they go, but
Yeah.
the actual content is my favorite. So,
And that, I love that because it not only does the story not necessarily come to us in any particular order, it doesn't need to be presented to the author, the reader, in, certainly please don't do chronological order, right? Like that thematic, or like, what's the ride of the roller coaster? I want to be on a ride. I want to know some of the peaks and the valleys, but I want there to be some surprises, and I definitely need to know why the hell I'm getting on this ride, right? What makes it worthwhile? Because when I write and I have an outline, a very clear outline, I actually put in my chapter headings first, like the actual chapters. And so when I sit down to write draft, I'm like, I'm not just going to write the next chapter in my order, like a grab bag, like what chapter gets written today, right?
mhm.
And you said this too, Leslie, that we're writing about one thing, and then there's a connection or a link or a excitement over here. You can go there. If you're excited about it, go there, right? Just figure out where there is and where it belongs. I love it.
I was also going to say, I found when you was putting your stuff together for writing, in your folder or whatever. Sorry, he's eating my cereal. Like I have all my rejection letters from every job I applied for. This one's from November 14th, 2001. That's the folder I found in the garage last month that I've been looking for.
Amazing. Amazing.
So
all of those letters could be at the back of the book if you want.
yes, I think I was gonna do like a cover letter at the beginning of a chapter and then the rejection letter at the end. That's been my plan for all these years. Because I'm
That's a
really
roller
good at not
coaster.
getting jobs.
Oh my God, that's a beautiful roller coaster. Oh,
Anyway,
it's
enough
fantastic.
about me.
I love it.
How do you
No,
feel
never,
it?
never enough. Hi, sweetheart. What are you gonna write?
Trouble.
Gorgeous. Okay. Everybody feels, how do you feel? Yeah, good, worth it. My dog feels good too. We're gonna wrap up 9 minutes early, set you off into the world to show up for your book however you need to show up. I'm really pleased to hear from each of you, be a part of your discovery journey and creation journey. And it's just really impressive to see what you're doing with the concept and how you're showing up for your story and for yourselves. I love it. I'm gonna go show up for myself. Take a 9-minute nap. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye. Oh, and I am back in Medellin. If you need anything here, I know
You're
you're
in town. Oh, I thought it was next Monday. Oh, Monday was yesterday.